favorite Santino Marella moment. His WWE debut when he won the Intercontinental Championship against Umaga, of course, with help from the great Bobby Lashley. Him and Akon when he was freestyling, and then Akon was in was in the event. But I always like Santino Marella. Him and Mick Foley. Remember when Mick Foley had the
Sacco versus?
But I like Santino. Unfortunately, he still gets some criticism because of, unfortunately, the Royal Rumble record. You know, the quickest elimination. I think it was like what, a second.
Yeah, the minute he walked into the ring, he's out of the ring.
But I always like Santino. His personality, his enthusiasm. He's a lot of fun, man. But those are my favorite moments from Santino. What's yours, big fella?
I'm not gonna lie, this time with Beth Phoenix was funny as hell. This time with Beth Phoenix was funny as hell. And you have to admire a person like that who is willing to, people deem it as unmasculine or whatever, but you have to admire someone who's willing to kind of like make people laugh despite themselves. And some of her picking him up and stuff like that shit was genius. If you really want me to be honest with you, it was genius. And I loved every minute of that. His debut, arguably one of the greatest debuts in the history of the game. You debuting and winning the Intercontinental title against Umaga, one of the greatest heels and one of the most dangerous heels in the history of the WWE. Before Solo Sikoa, before Roman Reigns, before any of the bloodline, this guy was the most dangerous guy in the world. The Samoan Bulldozer, God rest his soul. And you win a title from him with the help of Bobby Lashley, but nevertheless you won. That was one of the most impressive debuts ever. Him and Mick Foley, like you said, that was funny. That Royal Rumble, he was entertaining. I think people, look, we get too caught up today in the quality of wrestling matches, which, yes, it's wrestling, it's a sport, but we have to remember some of these guys were not hired for the wrestling or their athletic ability. Some of these guys were hired for their entertainment ability. And Santino Marella's ability to entertain was great, especially for the level that he made it on. I mean, for him to walk into the ring at the Royal Rumble, get pulled over the top ropes and walk right back out of the ring and keep walking like nothing happened. Like I said, I don't think people understand what it takes to put yourself in these, what I like to call humbling situations in the entertainment business. It's very, very humbling. You're used to being a winner all your life. You're a winner you got to be a winner in order to get there. But in order to make everybody laugh, in order to make sure everybody is entertained, because, wrestling and putting on a 1 hour match may not be your strong suit. So you put on the entertainment hat to put yourself in some situations where you're the butt of jokes at times. It takes a lot of strength in order to do that. And I think a lot of wrestlers, a lot of sports entertainers get sold short because they're not able to put on a 1 hour match, but because they were entertaining, they always get a lot of flack against them. Look, respect the guys and respect the women who are able to make you laugh despite themselves. It takes a lot of strength not to take yourself too serious, especially when you know you've accomplished a lot, especially when you know you're intelligent, especially when you know that somebody can ask you a question pretty much about anything and you know what the hell you're talking about regardless of it. It takes a lot of strength to be the humble person. So respect to Santino Marella. I'm glad that he was able to do that and make people laugh despite himself. So good job.
He also took one hell of a Stone Cold Stunner, though.
Yes, he did. That was good. But
he kind of reminds me of you, champ. He doesn't take himself too seriously. That's the thing. He
I,
likes to. Hey,
I can't, I
that's
can't take myself that serious. I don't. I never want to be deemed as the. I'm already 6'1", and at my peak, when I was at fighting shape, I was 250. I didn't want people to be afraid when they came around me. I want people to understand that this is a safe place. I didn't want that whole stigma on me of being this angry ass fighter, being an athlete. I wanted to be the safe place for a lot of the people who was around me. I wanted the people who was around me to feel safe. So yeah, of course I make jokes in order to make people feel safe. I want you to feel safe. Can I turn on the danger? Yes, I can. But guess what? It's a time and place for that. And I hope that's never a time. And when you take yourself a little bit too serious, God has a way of humbling that ass. I'm just gonna be real. You God in life has a way of humbling that ass. So if you're not humble and you're not in within your and you don't get within yourself really, really quick, even after an accomplishment, then guess what? Life has a way of humbling you. You don't know. And look, you don't necessarily, there's a stigma outright about that. I think that people love being the best person in the room. You don't have to be the best person in the room. If somebody is smarter than you, then that's the best situation that you can be in. That's the greatest situation because you get to learn. If you're the best person in the room in every room that you walk in, that's a problem because what are you learning? And are you downgrading in order to fit in the rooms? And are you going in the rooms that you have no business being in at a certain point? Hell, when you first got me to do a podcast, I didn't know nothing about podcasting. I didn't know anything. I was nervous as hell. But you was like, hey man, the same thing that you do on the videos, do here. Like I said, I still am not the best man in the room when it comes to podcasting, but you get to learn something. And when you're learning, that's how you get better. So if you're the best man in the room in every single room that you walk into, or the best woman in the room in every room that you walk into, you're walking in the wrong damn rooms because in some of those rooms, you're not supposed to be there because you're downgrading yourself in order to be there so you can be that best person in the room just because you're afraid to grow.
not only that, it gets boring to me, champ, because again, if you have to be the leader in every single situation, then how are you going to learn and cultivate relationships with other people? That's a problem. And look, like I said with the podcast, yes, although I helped you out with the podcast, and I'm glad I did, but at the same time, I always say, give yourself credit. You still had to do your part in order for you to succeed with the podcast and stuff. Look at what you're doing right now with your pod. So my thing is like that's the difference between you and I, champ. I still to this day take myself too damn seriously because I want more. I feel like nothing is promised. I feel like, look, I have this mentality. I might as well capitalize every opportunity. Time's the one thing you can never recapture. I just feel like I gotta grab it because there's no way, there's no possibility it may ever come back. So I might as well grab it as much as I can. And to your point, yeah, the Lord will tell you, the Lord will humble your ass. A lot of times I was humbled a lot. A lot of times I still do with a lot of shit. So yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, but you're so great that it'll roll right off of you. Like I said, we like Kobe and Shaq, man. I don't take in myself too seriously because I'm just gonna be honest with you. Once I put my mind to something, I know I can accomplish it.
Right.
And it's not to boost my blow a smoker up my own butt, but I know I can accomplish it. So if I know I can accomplish it when I'm doing what I'm supposed to behind the scenes, I'm not going to take that serious mentality that I have in approaching things in front of people because guess what? I don't, like I said, I like to be the safe place when it comes to everybody. I want people to feel safe. It's like, hey, this is a safe place. You know, we can all talk. We all friends here. Is that a detriment at times? Yes, it is. But it's often more of a when you are approachable and you are likable, that is something that you can't replace. Everybody gravitates you when you're approachable, when you're likable. Ain't nothing like that big ass dude in the room that got a mug on his face. Nobody wants to talk to you.
Because
Ask
you're afraid that he may whoop your ass.
Look at George Foreman and how he transformed himself. Remember, he was mean as hell. during the first part of his career. God rest his soul. Remember
Yes.
his second part of his career, he was more like Muhammad Ali. He was more approachable, more humble, more kind. And he invited people in, regardless of his massive size. He invited people in, and people wanted to be around him. And guess what? When you rooted for George Foreman, it's like it reminded you of your uncle. It reminded you of your
Or
father.
Mike Tyson.
Yeah, you wanted to, you gravitated to that. So yeah, you want to be, yeah. I mean, especially when I was a fighter, I used to smile, and to this day, I smile everywhere I go. I remember one time I was looking kind of serious at a grocery store, and I'm looking at some apples, and this older lady, I think she was like in her 60s, she tapped my shoulder, and she said, "I feel a lot safer if you smile." And I smiled for her, and I just kept on smiling. I'm like, okay, if that'll make you feel a lot safer, it'll make me feel a lot safer that you're safe. So hey, that's how come I don't take everything serious, because guess what? I don't want to scare the hell out of anybody.
Mm-hmm.
When you scare people, look, when you scare people in certain areas, bad things happen to you. That's another reason why we're not going to go into those bad things. But when you scare people in certain walks of your life, bad things tend to happen to those people, and we know what happens.
Yeah, especially if you're suspicious. So yeah, can't argue there. But Santino, I mean, I like him a lot, man, as a character. So I thought he did a lot of good, man.